Hey everybody, it's Bob Phibbs, the Retail Doc. It is Monday, November 30th, and there's a big question that I was running is why hasn't John Denver had any hit songs lately? Oh, that's right, he's dead. That's kind of the feeling I've had this afternoon as story after story wants to regurgitate how online is punishing brick and mortar and malls are less than 50% of traffic from 2019. We're in a pandemic. What do you expect? But no, the narrative has been written. It's going to be brick and mortar is punished and no one's shopping. And the reality is that I get it. Case numbers are going up. But when you look at Los Angeles County, which today has imposed that retailers are limited to 20% of occupancy until December 20th, think about that in a boutique. Oh, unless you're a big box, then it's 35%. If you start looking at the real dynamics of what is possibly going on, then you realize that fear sells and fear stops sales from happening. And yet, this last weekend through Small Business Saturday, I've been talking to an awful lot of small business. You know what their number one thing they're coming back is? We're having our best years ever. We are having more people come in and shop local. Even if they're waiting in line, they're finding a way. And that is my point to you today, that 80% of what we believe about a story becomes real, and only 20% of that is strategy. That if you want to get caught up in those headlines, which are going to come relentlessly, oh my God, it's the end of shopping as we know it. My God, the malls are all going to be, every brand should be, yeah, I get it. I get it. But to go the next level and say everybody wants to go through and just sit at home and order stuff, belays the reason people go into a brick and mortar store. We go into a store to shop, to discover. We go online to buy, right? So if I need a HP 54 cartridge for my printer, I doubt I'm gonna, no offense, Staples or Office Depot, I'm not gonna go into this, get in my car, drive down, try to find a clerk. I need a HP 54 cartridge. Take me back to the cartridge ring, which is locked off, by the way. Have to take their little scrunchie of keys and unlock it and hand me the $35 thing for me to go and buy. No, I'm not going to do that because I'm just fulfilling. But if I'm setting up my home office, yeah, I'm going to go into a brick and mortar store because I want to see something new. And the challenge we're having with these limits and the challenge we're having with the pandemic is it's limiting the amount of time people browse. The money has always been in retail about browsing and lingering. And when we are being locked down, it is becoming tougher and tougher. And, so many stories continue to say how shopping has changed forever. And let's face it, there are a lot of people interested in being able to tell that story because if you're an online payment source, you're getting a little bit of a cut of it. If you're fulfilling it, if you're doing business with Amazon and everything, there's a lot of reasons people are doing it. And I just think when people are using the words forever, just be careful of that. I myself, back in March of this year, I was speaking in Nevada, and it was like the second weekend in Nevada, and I'm getting ready to leave. And I start turning on the news more and more, and it's like people are ratcheting up about this COVID-19 getting worse and worse. And then Tom Hanks comes out and says he's got it in Australia. Him and his wife are sequestered. And then up to 2 million people may die. You may remember that day, March 13th. And we all panicked. And so I fly into Newark, and I live about 2 hours north of there. And it was like people were going 90 miles an hour to get home. That's all it was get home. And when I looked at that moment and I said, my business is going to change for a long time coming, that I have to find a way that instead of me getting up onto the stage and being passionate and motivating people and giving them the tools they need, I'm going to become a broadcaster, which is what I'm doing right now, as a matter of fact, and realizing that I may not be on a stage for a year or two, and saying, well, how am I going to give value? And so I looked at it and said, what is a retailer going to need? They're going to need to know how to clean. They're going to know how to do some different items. We put together 8 lessons of a course, threw it into our online retail sales training program, SalesRx, and gave it away and said, here, take it and run with it, because the goal was to serve and now and sell later. And I thought, well, we're done with that. And about 3 weeks later, it's like, oh my gosh, people are going to start reopening. There's a whole different set of needs. What are we going to do? Came back to another 8 set of lessons, put that together, put that in SalesRx, gave that away. And I really appreciate the World Retail Forum this last week or so that gave me the Retail Innovation Leadership Award for 2020, along with Kroger and Sephora and Williams-Sonoma and some other brands that you know, Beta, for leading the idea that together we learn and recharge and grow together. You know, a lot of people have gone through and said fear and hopelessness is where we're mired. And I am just here to tell you that I expect tomorrow morning there's going to be a slew of more reasons why Cyber Monday was, let's go back, created because so many people worked at home. They didn't have, worked in an office. They didn't have internet at home. They didn't have home computers. And so when they got back from Black Friday, they went online on that Monday to buy. That's how Cyber Monday was created. Now it's just an extension of Black Friday. And we call Black Friday in 2020 what? Yeah, November. So it's just an excuse to give more and more discounts. But the locals, the smaller retailers are the unsung heroes here. And even in spots with major brands in downtown areas, we are hearing over and over again, people are shopping small and they're going through, and small businesses are seeing some light at the end of the tunnel. People who've opened new second and third stores are telling me demand is greater than they thought. And I'm here to tell you, when the vaccine comes, and it'll be here, when we get back to normal, and we will, the pull to the store will never be greater. So the same thing for you restaurants that are watching me, same thing for you hotels, is that we are going to be looking to get out. I can tell you one thing from doing Zoom calls for the last 9 months or whatever it is, as many as people say, oh, virtual, we're never going back in person. I can see how many people are registered for something and how many actually show up and how many are engaged and want to do it. We do not crave having online. We do not crave just being rats to the cheese and click and collect. And scrolling through an app to buy a shirt or buy something can be mind-numbing in itself, let alone the doom scrolling it opens up when you're on your social network and you're also seeing all that, whoa, somebody said this, oh my gosh and gosh. Look, I'm not here to make fun of the pandemic. It's serious. I believe in science, and my mom was a science teacher. I come from people that believe in taking care of being responsible. I believe in all of that. But what I don't want you to do is to take what you're going to hear from this past weekend and invariably tomorrow and connect the dots and say, it's hopeless, it's fearful, and it gives you permission to pull back at a time that we can't afford you to pull back. Your employees can't afford it. They're wondering themselves. They're seeing all this news. Are we going to be open? Are we going to be closed? Especially if you're in a mall. What are you doing to go through it? Are you ready for that time when your competitors that have gone out of business, whether that's this week, whether that's next month, whatever it is, are you ready to pick up the slack and run with it? What are you doing right now, today, that's going to prepare you for this future success? What are you doing to drive engagement? And I'm talking about even online too. The goal is to get them to linger as well. You know, when I look at stories of people that have adapted to COVID, the San Francisco baker that's gone through and started making cakes that are only for 1 or 2 people with fun sayings on it, or my clients who've talked about being able to schedule appointments with customers to sell from their store at times they never thought possible. They don't have to wait in their store from 10 to 6 and hope to God somebody comes in. They can fill their day. You're probably going to have to do that more and more, especially as we come into some of the high parts of the pandemic. But you have to ask yourself, how am I going to make it a better season? How am I going to go through and text my customers to when they're doing curbside to add on, to go through and realize your goal is to add on and to make the sale. Yes, we have to follow safety protocols. I am totally there. Everybody wears masks, all of that, social distancing, no mask, no service. But don't forget, this is our time when customers have been locked away. They haven't been able to go anywhere, to visit places, to go to concerts, to go to films. They have that money they've been saving up and they are looking to spend it. We are on the cusp of a new hedonism. How are you going to tap into it? I would suggest turn off the news and ask yourself and your crew, how can we? And then just shut up and brainstorm. But please don't sit there and read the news that is like painting the lily, as they used to call it. Wow, you know, half the traffic in malls. Wow, that's really terrible. Malls are dying. Wait a minute. No one's going there because, oh, they can't. Oh, that's right, because they're told not to. So let's be careful of what we're letting in there. Let's be careful the story we're bringing into ourselves, that this is what it is, when this is what the narrative that's being put out there is. And if you're a mall owner, you better find a way to make it joyful and fun when they do go out there and be able to go through and remember your job is to entertain and inspire us so that we are going to be back in droves in April or July or whatever it's going to be. And I'm sure there'll be no naysayers on here like, really, all we have to do is set our mind? No, you have to take action. You have to take action because you don't have the luxury of a negative thought. And with that, I am Bob Phibbs, the Retail Doc. If you agree with me, certainly you can comment. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. But I'm not here to be your friend. What option do you have right now? We are in the home stretch. And folks in LA County, I feel for you. I grew up in LA and I get it. It's unfair, but what are you going to do? We have to find our way through it. And I encourage you to answer that question. How can we? And don't pull back at this time because it's really easy. We've come out of a really hard year. We're tired. We're like, can't we just be over with it? No. There's even more that we've got to do. And with that, I appreciate you listening to me this afternoon. And don't be listening for a new hit from John Denver. Although if you really want to hear one of his best albums ever, John Denver live from the Universal Amphitheater. I heard that when I was 16 years old. And because of that conductor conducting The Eagle and the Hawk, and he was full orchestra and John and his band. And as he reached the climax of the piece, he jumped up in the air and he came down and cut off the orchestra. Everything was perfect. And I said, right then, I'm going to be a conductor. Well, I didn't end up living that life. I ended up realizing I don't have the chops to be a conductor. But that passion for living your life just like that conductor is still there in me. I know it's there in you. You're here watching me. Let's get out there and do something great. You don't have the luxury of a negative thought. I'm Bob Phibbs, the Retail Doc. I'll see you next time with more thoughts from the Retail Doctor.